Behind me are several associations and employers from around the state of Missouri, and our purpose today is to show unanimity and a call to action for the legislature to help make Missouri a more competitive state to do business in. The way this Fix the Six coalition started was that there was a group of employers that got together and focused on a handful of issues with certain criteria. The criteria were that the issues had to be revenue neutral. We all know the situation that the state's in with the budget, and we didn't want to cause any hardship there. And the other criteria, we had to make Missouri more competitive as we face global competition and competition from other states for jobs. And of course, this day and age, the one thing that we really need to focus on is creating job opportunities for more Missourians. What you'll see is a diverse group of associations that are united in this cause. We've got 6 different issues that we're calling on the legislature to address, including unemployment insurance reform, employment law reform, workers' compensation, tort reform, and the escalator of the minimum wage, eliminating the escalator in the minimum wage law, and also capping the franchise tax. Right now, we'd like to get right into the meat of the program, and like I said, we're in a tough lie right now with creating jobs, and the state has been paying out unemployment benefits, and it's gotten itself into a real hole. And to address the unemployment insurance issue is Ray McCarty of Associated Industries.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks, Dan. I am Ray McCarty, President of Associated Industries of Missouri, and I'm glad you all showed up here today. Thank you for that. To explain the unemployment insurance issue, what we're asking legislators and the governor to do is to prevent a tax increase on all Missouri employers. And really it's going to take both parties working together. It's going to take the legislature doing an amendment to the law to stretch the bond terms out so that we can afford the payments within the Hancock Amendment. And it's going to take the governor actually starting the process of issuing these bonds. Now, the important thing to remember about these bonds is that they're not an obligation of the state. It is still an obligation employers must pay back. It's done through a surcharge, but this helps level the shock to employers' tax accounts as we go into the future, and we're trying to recover from this horrible economic downturn that we've had. So it's pretty simple. The legislature needs to stretch the amount of time that those bonds have to be paid back, and we need the governor to start the process of issuing those bonds. Again, not an obligation of the state. Doesn't affect the state's bond rating. It also does not affect the state's bonding capacity, but it does allow employers to smooth out the shock of the record unemployment that we've had in recent years.
Thanks, Ray. Like we said, revenue neutral, and moving right along, there's been several instances where interpretation of state statute has led to a change in the way that area of the law has been considered. Right now, I'd like to introduce General Counsel for the Missouri Chamber, Rich Aubuchon, to talk about the employment law reform piece.
Hi, good afternoon. Rich Aubuchon with the Missouri Chamber. This coalition will be seeking a codification, a change in law, a fix, if you will, to mirror the protections as set forth in Missouri's law that will mirror the federal employment law. We will also be seeking to strengthen Missouri's law so that we can help protect legitimate whistleblowers in Missouri. Current law is unpredictable, and a fix is necessary to ensure that we create a business-friendly environment. This is a very difficult topic, one that has been brought forth in the legislature in many years, but I believe that this will be the year that it passes.
Thanks, Rich. And our good friend Kermit Miller had said he's seen this agenda before, but as you can hear, we're not talking about major changes to these areas of law. We're talking about corrections and things that should be able to reach consensus on so that we return workers' compensation to the intent of the law, that it's a no-fault insurance policy for that injured worker to get the coverage he or she needs and get back to work. Next on our list is workers' compensation, and a veteran to the workers' compensation debate, Brad Jones of NFIB.
Thank you for being here. About 90 years ago, employers and employees sort of made a deal and said, the employer said, if you get hurt on the job for no fault of your own, we will take care of you. Along those lines, we would also appreciate not being sued in court. And that is the beginning of the Missouri Workers' Compensation Program, or as we say, exclusive remedy. If you get hurt on the job, your employer will take care of you, and in lieu of, we will stay out of court for negligence or whatever. In 2005, we had some major changes in our workers' compensation law. We had some definitional changes. We asked that the courts strictly construe our law. Well, after a few years, they have done that. And the result has been that we have had a couple of cases that have come down that we think are probably going to cause some real disruption in the workplace. One being the Robinson versus Hooker case, in which the courts found that employees who might injure each other can actually sue each other. That would be outside or from underneath the umbrella of the workers' compensation system. And the other one had to do with occupational disease, in which, once again, our definition from 2005 was such that the courts ruled that occupational disease also, not being an accident, would also be outside of the umbrella of our workers' compensation system. The fix are really quite simple. There are a couple of small definitional changes that we think are necessary, and especially in the Robinson versus Hooker case, we really think that the disruption that could cause from employees not trusting each other and wanting to sue each other is something that I think we all definitely would like to see fixed. So thank you all very much.
Thanks, Brad. And that's an example of trying to protect the competitive advantage we have right now. We've seen our recommended rate decreases in work comp lead the Midwest in a state-to-state comparison. Next, we have a tort reform issue that Dan Shaw from the Missouri Grocers Association would like to address. Dan?
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Dan Shaw, the Executive State Director for Missouri Grocers Association. We're an association that everyone in this building addresses and deals with on a daily basis. Everyone consumes food, so anything that affects our cost of goods also affects the daily life of all citizens in the state of Missouri. We would really like to see us look at the tort reform on joint and several liability. We want to make sure that it's a fair and level playing field out there. Ensure that if you're at 51%, you pay 51% of the liability. In no case should anyone have to pay 100% of the liability when they're not 100% liable. And with that, I think Missouri Grocers is very proud to be part of Fix the Six Coalition and look forward to continuing to serve the great consumers and citizens of the state of Missouri in the future. Thank you.
Fifth out of the six is a fix to the escalator in the minimum wage law. To talk about that is Bobby Bonney from the Missouri Restaurant Association. Bobby?
Missouri minimum wage law contains an automatic escalator based on increases in the consumer price index and the cost of living. Missouri is the only state in our region, specifically the 8 states that share a border with us, to have this minimum wage escalator within its minimum wage law. The automatic increase could result in a higher minimum wage in Missouri than the federal minimum wage, and therefore 7 of our neighboring states, thereby discouraging job creation in Missouri. The coalition seeks to remove the automatic escalator from Missouri minimum wage law to promote job growth in Missouri by making Missouri a more attractive choice for employers. Thank you.
And sixth, but not least, these are not in any preferred order. These are all priorities of this coalition here. But last today, we'd like to have a cap placed on the franchise tax. And to talk about that is Tim Phelps from Missouri Merchants and Manufacturers Association.
Thank you, Dan. The Missouri is one of the few states which has both a corporate franchise tax and a corporate income tax. The corporate franchise tax is basically a tax on assets. It was instituted in 1914 prior to the corporate income tax, and so now that we have both of them, it's really the worst form of double taxation. What we would like is to be able to cap, and for the legislators to cap the corporate franchise tax at the current levels for Missouri businesses. That would allow for Missouri employers to grow, add assets to their companies, and possibly bring assets from other states and not be taxed additionally on their corporate franchise tax. Thank you.
As I mentioned, this is a very diverse coalition. We've got people from all over the state of Missouri. Two people are here from local chambers of commerce. Chip Castile from the St. Louis Regional Chamber and Growth Association. Sandy Howard from the Springfield Chamber of Commerce. Chip, would you like to say a few words?
Thanks, Dan. Good afternoon. The St. Louis RCGA is a large and diverse organization with some 4,000 members, ranging from the very largest of the businesses and institutions in the St. Louis region down through many, many hundreds of smaller ones. And we're dedicated to economic development, and we support policies that help us attract businesses and grow jobs. One of the most important things the state can do to help in that effort is to provide a positive, pro-business, advantageous business climate relative to the many other regions and states around the country with which we have to compete for job creation. The Fix the Six agenda is a very important part of that process. It follows on to very positive steps that were taken in the mid-2000s. In some cases, it finishes that agenda. In some cases, it addresses new things that have developed since then. But when those actions were taken in the mid-2000s, there was a tangible improvement in the national perception of Missouri and the St. Louis region as a good place to do business. And we believe the Fix the Six agenda will advance that further for future economic and job growth. There are chambers of commerce all around the state that share these views, and we're happy to be part of this coalition. Thanks.
And Sandy, would you like to wrap up from the chambers?
Thanks, Dan. I'm with the Springfield Chamber. We represent business in the Southwest Missouri area, some 2,000 business members. These are not issues that are new to us. The majority of these we've been advocating for several years. We think they're very important for the business climate and the state of the business growth in our state. What is different for us this year is this coalition that you've heard from this afternoon, and the united approach is really encouraging to us because clearly there's consensus in the business community that these are the issues to focus on, and this is the right time to do so. Thanks.